Hello everyone, welcome to SN and in today's video we are going to build and also deploy an AI powered RAG based medical assistant, okay, where you'll be able to upload your any medical related documents, okay, and you'll be able to ask any precise question from those particular document, and it would help you about some topics about healthcare or in the domain of medical, right? So this is the application, and first let us, so we have this diabetes PDF where we have lots of information about what is diabetes, and how we can treat them and how many types of diabetes we have. Okay, so open. All right, I'll click on upload DB, and we are using Pinecone Vector database to store our vector embeddings for each and every chunks of those uploaded documents. Okay, so you could see the message that our document has been uploaded successfully. Now we'll ask some questions from this document, right? So as I said that my document holds some information about what is diabetes, and we'll see the document in our coming part. Okay, so let us ask a simple question as what is diabetes, right? A simple thing. Enter. So okay, so it's a concise answer. Now if I ask that how many types of diabetes are there, right? I'll enter. Okay, so more precise question. Then also if we ask around, let's say, how to treat diabetes, right? All right, so this is how you'll be having some precise questions from your any medical related document. Okay, so this is what we're going to build in this video, and yeah, and this is what we are going to build in this video. So first let's see what are the content that you'll be seeing in this video. Okay, all right, so I have divided this whole video into this 6 chapter. So chapter 1, first we'll revise our concept of how RAG works, how this embedding works. Okay, then second, our technical architecture for our this application and our core modules and our bit of tech stacks. Okay, then our prerequisite will set up and will installation, then we'll do the programming for our server side, then we'll do the programming for our client side, then at last we'll deploy our front end in Streamlit and backend in Render. Okay, all right, now let's first revise our RAG concept. Okay, so from the left side, from this red block, you could see from here we are uploading our documents. It could be PDF, docs, Excel sheet, whatever document you have, you are uploading your documents, right? Then in this yellow dotted box, first we are chunking those documents. That's why we use those parameters, right? That chunk size and chunk overlap, right? So we are chunking those your uploaded documents. Then we'll pass that to an embedding model that will help us to generate those vector embedding. And here we are using Google's embedding 001 model, which will give us a dimension of 768 dimensions vector embeddings. Okay, so now we have those vectors over here. Now from there, look into this blue dotted box. We are storing those vector embedding in a vector database. You can use ChromaDB, FastAPI, Quadrant, Pinecone DB, Supabase, whatever you want. But as we are deploying, so we are using Pinecone DB because when you are using ChromaDB, 5 CPU, those require some local storage where they will store those vector embeddings. But if you tend to deploy in free, those amount of storage requirement you won't be getting in your free deployment tier. So that's why it's always better to use a vector database that have its cloud preference. Okay, so you can use Pinecone, Quadrant, Supabase, because those are in cloud base you just simply need to add the APIs for it. Okay, so now we have stored our vector embeddings in this blue dotted box vector DB. Now see from the right side we have our user. So user asking a query. Now this query will go to this embedding generation model. So again we are generating some vector embedding from this user query. Okay, so now we have our vector database where we have stored all our vector embeddings for our uploaded documents, and now we also have a user's given queries vector embedding. Now we'll match them to retrieve some relevant chunk that's our LLM will generate some context from. Okay, so after retrieving those relevant chunk, we'll pass them through our LLM. It could be GPT, Llama, Gemini, Mistral, Sonnet, like Claude Sonnet, whatever you want. Okay, then with a proper guided prompt, your LLM will give you the answer and will pass that answer to our user dashboard or our user UI. Okay, so this is how this RAG system works, and I tried here to give you some some revise of those RAG concept. Okay, now if we move to our chapter 2 where we have our architecture of our application and our tech stack and our core modules, so you could see our medical AI system or our medical assistant chatbot have around 8 modules. As number one is of course this green box of PDF upload, right? Then after uploading this PDF we have to chunk this text, so this violet box, then yellow box of embedding, then vector store, right? Then we have our answer generation, query processing, LangChain, which will help us do that whole RAG based pipeline, right? And then we have our FastAPI backend where we will be having 2 routes, one /upload PDFs and one /ask route. I mean like those are our API endpoints. Okay, so then if we talk about our core tech stack, so for our LLM we are using Groq LLaMA3 with 70 billion parameters, that particular model. For embedding we are using Google Generative AI. The reason again I am using Generative AI because we just have to take our Google API key and we can use this embedding AI model. But if you use some Hugging Face embedding model, then every time you will be running your application, you need to install those Hugging Face embedding model in your local. So as our focus is to deploy, so it will be better to not make those extensive work. All right, then vector store Pinecone. I have told you why we are using Pinecone and not ChromaDB and 5 CPU. Then of course LangChain for handling our LLM responses and all those RAG based chains. Then for FastAPI we are using FastAPI, like for backend we are using the FastAPI, and for deployment purpose we'll be deploying our backend like this FastAPI into render, and the whole front end will be in our Streamlit cloud. Okay, so yeah, that was some preview and some concept revise that I wanted to give you all before we get into the code. Now we'll be jumping to our I think chapter 3 for our prerequisite and our setup and installation. Okay, so first let's check out our prerequisites. Okay, so we'll be needing our Gemini API key, so get it from here. Then also we'll be needing our Pinecone API keys, and we'll be needing our Groq API keys, and to manage our Python packages we'll be using UV. Okay, now let's set up our UV Python application. So for that I'll be simply initialize the UV project, so UV init -dot. Alright, then I'll be needing one virtual environment, so UV venv, get it, and I just simply I'll copy this command, I paste it over here. Okay, so now I have activated my virtual environment. Okay, now I need to create 2 folders as server and client, or you can also create a 2 folder as backend or frontend. Okay, so dir server and client. Alright, now I'll get under my CD server. Okay, now what I need to install our dependencies, right? So here I'll create a file as requirements.txt. Alright. Okay, so we have our FastAPI, UVCon, Python multipart, LangChain community, LangChain code, LangChain Groq, Pinecone, our Google GenAI for our generative embedding model, PyPDF, Python.env, Pydantic, TQDM, Logger for our logging our applications to get our log files, and Streamlit. We don't need to install Streamlit over here, and also not arrow files. So I'll cut them, save them. Alright, now what I'll do here, alright, see, while we are using pip and wish to use this command as pip install -r requirement.txt, right? But when you are using a UV application, you just have to add UV in front of it, that's it. Okay, what I do, pip UV pip install -r requirements.txt. Alright, enter. Now it will install all those dependencies extremely fast. Okay, you can easily compare it with your pip or any other Python package manager. You will compare to those extremely fast. Okay, all right, now to test this, I'll just simply create a file as test.py. Okay, so as we have installed FastAPI, so we should be able to use FastAPI. So from FastAPI, I want to import FastAPI. Okay, all right, so it should be import FastAPI. Then I need to create an app FastAPI. Then I need to get API point as slash, and I'll be simply use a root to return a message as hello world, and I'll use that to test my FastAPI is running or not. Okay, so I'll simply open my Postman for this. So what I'll do, I'll first create a blank collection. So create a new collection, a blank collection. Here I'll name it as Medical Assistant. Okay, now under it I'll add a request, which will be by default a get request, and we also need a get request too. So I'll use test, and first I need to start my FastAPI application, right? So to start my FastAPI application, we'll be using UVCon will be test to app simple reload, so that whatever changes I made in my app, it should reload automatically. Okay, so the API point, so the URL is http 8000. I paste it over here, and I have to add a slash. Okay, now send, and you should see hello world, or whatever our code was, hello world. Okay, so all our dependencies that we have installed is working, so that's fine. Now we should start with our logging file. Okay, now we'll be creating our logger module, and the reason we'll be creating that whatever happening under the hood in my application, like all kind of information, all kind of warning, critical messages, I should get to see those in my console, like whenever those particular module is running, and if that particular module is returning some particular message, then I should be seeing those messages in my console as a log. Okay, and it will help me in future to test and debug my application, and through the tracing of my logging. Okay, so we'll be using a Python's inbuilt logging module, which is logging. Okay, then I need to I'll be creating a simple setup logger function. So def of setup logger, and here I'll be give a name to it. So let's say medical assistant. All right, and the reason I'm giving name, because see, in this application I have only one logger, but whenever you have to build a large application you might have multiple loggers, so giving some unique name to each and every logging module, it always helps you to figure out which kind of log you are getting because of which kind of logger module, like those simple distinction purpose. Now I need to create a okay so now okay so now I need to create a simple instance of my logger. So logger, here I'll be using my logging dot get logger. Okay, and here I'll simply pass that which particular logger module I'm using. So I'll be passing the name, and then I'll be setting the level of it. So logger dot set level, and here I'll be passing logging dot debug, and logging dot debug simply means that we want to see all the logs from the debug level and above, and which includes info, warning, error, and any other critical message. Okay, after that we need to take care of the our console handling part. Okay, so we'll be adding a handler. So let's say we use we'll use ch. Here I'll be using logging dot stream handler. Okay, and then ch, I'll be set the level of it, set level. Again logging will be my debug. Okay, so in this case this stream handler will print the logs to our console. Okay, and again we are setting the level to debug, which is the similar as for the before. Okay, now I need to define the in which format I'll be seeing my log. Okay, so for that I'll be using a particular formatter. So formatter here logging dot formatter, and here I need to give it that in which particular format I want to see my logs. So let's say first I'll be needing time in ascending order, so ASC time, which will be under first bracket. Okay, so first bracket ASC time, then second. Okay, and after that here again another third bracket, and here I'll be needing the name of particular message, so level name. Okay, then finally let's say I'll be needing the particular message that this particular logging module is providing. So message is all right. So this is then ch formatter, ch.set formatter. I'll be set the format. I'll pass my formatter over here. Okay, now it's done. Now as I've told you that in this application we have only one logger, but you could have multiple logging module. But another thing, let's say we have a simple module and you are calling this logging module multiple times, so it shouldn't just show me same statement again and again how many times you are calling them. So that's why I need to give some check statement that if not logger dot hash handlers, mean if for a particular module I haven't called my logger module, then and only I should get to see those console handler. Okay, so here then and only I'll be add it to my handler. Add handler, my name Sage. Okay, after that simple return logger, right? Simply return logger, it will be return. Now we'll call the function, so logger setup logger. Okay, now let me show you how it will look like, right? So I'll just call it as logger dot, let's say for info, and rag process started. Okay, now if I just run this particular file as python logger.py, you could see, so in this format we are seeing our logs. So 7 of 2, so July 2nd at morning of 10 p.m. as morning 10 a.m. approx, we and this is a message of kind of information message, and the message is rag process started. Okay, now if I just write another one, so let's say logger dot, I want a debug message. Okay, debugging, then we might have logger dot error, failed to load. Okay, then we might also have logger dot critical, so critical message. Okay, so I'll just simply run the file again, and you could see we have these 4 kind of logs. Okay, and we'll be using this kind of logs across our application, so we get to see whatever happening under our application all the time. Okay, so now for our FastAPI entry point, we'll create a file as main.py. Okay, now here let us import from FastAPI, then let's say from FastAPI middlewares dot course, I need to import course middleware. Okay, and the reason I'm importing course middleware, because as our backend will be running at a different port, and our frontend will be running at a different port, so I need to allow my course origin. So for that I need to set up my course middleware. Okay, so let's initialize our FastAPI app. So app FastAPI, here I'll be giving the title for my application, which will be Medical Assistant API. Okay, with also a description, it should be a, sorry, it will be in a small letter. Description would be API for AI Medical Assistant Chatbot. Okay, all right, so after that we need to set up our codes. So codes setup, now here I'll call my app, now add middleware, so add middleware, here I'll call my course middleware, and I need to allow all the origins, so allow origins, and to allow that I simply need to provide this star marks or this asterisk marks. Okay, then I need to allow all credential, okay, and then allow methods, and finally allow headers. Okay. All right. So after that, we need to add multiple modules over here. So first will be our middleware exception handlers that will be creating soon, and then our routers. Okay, and one router will be for our upload PDF documents, and another one would be for asking query. Okay, so now we need to create this middleware exception handlers module. So here I'll create a folder as middlewares. Okay, under it I'll be creating a file as exception handlers.py. Okay, right. Now again I need to import from FastAPI, import FastAPI, then from FastAPI dot responses I need to import JSON responses, and then the logger module that we have created. So from logger okay. Now to create the async function, so async def, I want to catch the exception, so catch exception middleware, where I need to provide the request that I'm having for the API. So request, and after that I'll just call the next one. Okay, now over here I simply use my try catch block. So try, here I'll simply return an await function where I'll call my call next, where I'll provide the request. Okay, and return. Now for the exception part, except exception as, let's say, for exe. Here we'll use our logger, so logger dot an exception kind of message, and the message will be, let's say, unhandled exception. Okay, and then simply we'll return an error message with JSONify. So JSON response status code would be 500 for our server error, and content would be an error with the string where I'll be passing my exe. Okay, all right. Now I need to add this to my main.py file. So I'll come over here and I'll simply add, first I need to import that. So over here I'll simply import from middlewares, let's say dot exception handlers. I'll import what? This catch exception handle middleware. So here I'll use app dot my middleware, where I'll pass, it will be an HTTP. So HTTP, not HTTPS, HTTP. Then I'll pass my catch exception handler middleware. Okay, all right. Request is not defined. Yeah, because, all right, so it's saying request is not defined. Okay, so we have imported FastAPI. Now we have to import a request from this request. Okay, so now we need to create our main modules. So for that I'll create a folder as module. So modules. Okay, And here the first thing we need to get our LLM.py that will handle our LLM response with our prompt. Okay, but before that, let us add our .env file and .env. And what we need over here, we need our Google API key for our Google embedding model. So Google API key, our Groq API key, and of course Pinecone API key. Pinecone API key. Alright, now to handle our LLM response, we need to create this LLM.py module. Okay, so first let us import some libraries. So as we are using LangChain, so from LangChain dot prompts, we'll first import prompt template, because prompt is pretty important while this kind of generative AI application, because we have to guide your LLM to work in a particular direction as per your requirement, right? Then from, I'll use LangChain dot chains. I'll import LangChain dot chain. It will be chains. I'll use retrieval QA. All right. Okay. Retrieval QA. Then from LangChain Groq, as we are using Groq API, we need to import chat Groq. Okay, I'm doing some spelling mistake. LangChain Groq. Oh. Will be LangChain Groq. Okay. And after that, I simply need to import my load.env. So first import OS, then from .env, I need to import load.env. Okay, now to load our environment variables, I'll call this load.env function. Simple. Then I first need to retrieve my Groq API key. So Groq API key, then os dot get env. I'll simply pass my Groq API key over here. So Groq API key. Alright, now I have my API key over here. Now I need to create the function where I'll be handling my chain. Okay, where I'll be handling my LLM chain, right? So def get LLM chain, and here I'll create the chain where I'll be giving the parameter as my API key, the model, like the which llama model I'm using, then the prompt, and then the proper chain structure where, like, in which pipeline I'll be having those query, then I'll be having the retriever, and how I'll be giving the response, everything. Okay, so let's say here I'll be passing my retriever. So retriever. Retriever. Okay, now here I need to first define my LLM. So chat Groq. Here I need to pass the Groq API key. So Groq API key, which is of course Groq API key, and then I need to provide the model name, right? So model name, which is LLaMA3 with 70 billion parameters with 8192 model. Okay, so I've defined my LLM, like which LLM I'm using. Then I need to define the prompt I'll be using. So prompt, and here I'll call this prompt template, and here I need to provide the input variables. input variables, which would be the context, because I need to provide my LLM the context and also the query which will be given by our user, right? So our context and the question or the query, whatever you want to write it. Okay, then I need to provide the template, and this template will be pretty important because this will kind of guide our LLM to give us the response in a particular manner, right? So here you could see we have, let me just fix it. So this, okay, so I'll just hold it up, tab. Okay, all right, so here you could see the prompt says that you are a Medibot, an AI power assistant chatbot, an AI power, I don't need to give you the name. All right, Medibot, an AI power assistant trained to help users understand medical documents and health related questions. Your job is to provide clear, accurate, and helpful responses based only on the provided context. And the context is this, which will be providing to our LLM. And as per the user's question, and also answer in this particular giving manner that respond in a calm, factual, and respectful tone. Use simple explanation. If the context does not contain, say I'm sorry but I couldn't find relevant information. Do not make up fact, do not give medical advice, because you don't want your LLM to give you some medical advice until it's extremely well trained, right? Because I won't be telling you keep whatever my LLM is giving you some advice just out of some document, don't take it serious. Okay, so that's why we need to define in your prompt that do not make up facts. It's not like some other any history based answers, right? So after that we simply need to return a chain. So we'll return our retrieval. So retrieval QA dot, we'll be using our from chain type, right? There is some indentation error, I guess. Yes, sure. Is it though? I think it's all right. Sure. So return retrieval QA dot from chain type. Now here I need to pass the LLM. So LLM will be LLM, and chain type would be stuff, and the retriever would be retriever. Okay, and the chain type Groq parameters. In this case I need to provide the prompt which is indeed this prompt. Okay, and at last I'll return source documents. If you want you can do it, or if you don't, you don't have to. Okay, so I'll actually just cut it out, or I'll just keep it. Okay, so I'm passing my LLM, I'm passing my chain type, and I'm passing the retriever, my chain type Groq, so with the from a prompt, and I'm also returning the source document from that particular retrieved response. Okay, now after that we need to define how we'll be handling our vector store, or how we'll be handling our uploading document modules. All right, so now we'll create the module for our vector store handling. Okay, so for that, first let me create a file as load vector store .py. all right, now I have to import couple of dependencies over here. So here you could see we have imported OS time, we have imported path from pathlib, load.env from .env, tqdm from tqdm.auto to showcase those progress bar, and of course our Pinecone and serverless page to initialize our Pinecone instances. Then as we are using LangChain, so PyPTF loader from LangChain community, and a recursive character text splitter from our LangChain.text splitter, and of course for our Google Generative AI embeddings. Alright, so after that we'll load our environment variables. So load.env, that's it. Now we need to fetch all our environment variables from our .env file. So for that, Google API key. Alright, we'll use os.get env, and here we'll simply pass the API value, the name of it. So Google API key. Alright, so we'll copy this and we'll paste it around 2 times. Okay, now after Google we want Pinecone API key, right? Now also here Pinecone API key. Okay, now what more do we have to want? We also have to initialize, like not initialize, but declare our Python environment, which will be US East 1, because we are using Pinecone free tier. So in free tier we generally, like by default, we get AWS as our cloud service, and for our environment or region we get US East 1. Okay, and if you upgrade to Pro you might get some Google GCP cloud. Okay, now for the index name, let me give an index name as medical index. Okay, alright, now I have fetched my .env file from my environment variables. Now I need to get that to this particular environment. Okay, so for that os.environ, here I'll get my Google API key, cause we'll be using Google Generative AI embedding model. Here just pass Google API key. Okay, now whatever documents user will upload, we need to store that into our local, because we are not using any database to store them, right? So for that we need to declare or we need to create a directory, right? So upload dir. Okay, so I'll be creating a directory in our root. So /, I'll be giving the name as uploaded docs. Okay, now I need to make it, I need to create this directory, right? So os.make dirs, like make directory. I'll pass which one? My upload directory with the parameter of exist, okay, true. And this just means that if I haven't created this directory manually, and if the directory spot hasn't been created, it will automatically create this directory. Okay, and if I manually create that, it won't. Simple as that, because there is already one directory with the same name. So after this, the main part will be to initialize Pinecone instance. Okay, now how I will do that? In a variable, we'll simply call our Pinecone. Here we'll simply pass our API key. So Pinecone API key. Okay, now after that, as I've told you, we are using the free tier, so there we get the serverless Pinecone vector database. So here we'll call our serverless spec, where we need to provide couple of parameter. The cloud we'll be using is AWS, and the region would be, I have declared that earlier, Pinecone environment. Okay, all right. Now so here we are creating this particular index in our Pinecone vector database, but the thing is we can only create unique index, right? So I need to check that the index I am trying to create right now, is this already existence or not. So for that, I first need to fetch all my existing index from my Pinecone Vector database, right? So for that, existing indexes. Okay, now here I'll be fetching all of them. So for I in my PC dot list indexes, so for I in list indexes, what I want, I simply need to retrieve my I with the name of name. Okay, now I have fetched all my existing indexes is in this existing indexes variable. Now if this particular Pinecone index name already like not exist, so not in my existing indexes, then and only I'll create an index, otherwise I won't. Okay, so we'll use pc dot create the index, so create index, and we'll pass couple of parameter over here. As name would be Pinecone index name, of course. Then dimension would be 768 because the embedding model we are using is Google Generative AI's embedding 001 model, and that particular model returns a vector with the dimension of 768. Okay, so if you use any Hugging Face embedding model, you have to make sure that what dimension of vector does that particular embedding model returns. Okay, then we need to provide the metric, which will be in this case dot product. You can use cosine if you want, so dot product, and then SPC. I need to provide my serverless connection with as per my cloud and my region. Okay, so this will create an index, but the thing is creation of index might take some time, so I have to give my application some relaxation time while it's create this index. So for that, I'll run a loop while not my pc dot describe index, so describe index, and here I'll provide my Pinecone index name dot status, so dot status with ready. So if I don't receive the status ready for my particular, like my created particular Pinecone index, what I'll do, I'll use this time dot sleep of 1 second. I'll give it some relaxation time key. You first create this, then I'll move to my next code. And what will be my next code? In my next code, I'll simply provide my index to this. So index, I'll provide my Pinecone index name. Here we go. Okay, so this will help me create the index, and it will help me to connect with my application to that particular created Pinecone index. Okay, now our next step, which is the extremely vital one, that we need to define a function that will help us to load, split, embed, and upsert PDF docs content, right? So let me define a function. So def load vector store. Okay, and I'll provide my uploaded files, so uploaded files over here. Now the first thing is define my embedding model as per my Google Generative AI, right? So let's say my embed model, here I'll call the Google Generative AI embeddings, where I need to pass that which model I want to use. So model with the help of models slash embedding -001. Okay, and I also need to initialize an empty list where I'll be storing my uploaded files path, which will be necessary in our next stage, an empty list. Okay, all right, now the first thing is upload. I'll be giving it a number 1. So first step would be for our is upload. Okay, so we'll run a loop over here. So for file, in all my uploaded files, okay, I'll save all those paths. So in my save path, I'll use this path and I'll provide my upload directory, upload dir slash file dot file name. Okay, so I'm retrieving the file name from those particular uploaded folders files. Then I need to open this. So with open save path, and it will be a writable object. So wb as f string, then I'll write that. So I should be able to write this. So f dot write, and I simply provide file dot file read. Okay, so I have opened the file. Right now, file path dot append string save path. Okay, so here I have simply append this particular uploaded file to this particular initialized empty list. Okay, so you could see file path dot append. Okay, so I have append that particular path to my this empty initialized list. So this is how I'll upload. Then the next is what is the next one? Next one is a splitting part, right? So split. Okay, so again we'll run a loop. So for file path, so for file path, in file path, I'll first run a loader. So loader with PyPDF loader, where I'll simply pass my file path. So this file path, okay, and then the documents would be loader dot load. So this is how I have loaded those particular uploaded file. Right now, the splitting thing. So a splitter, I need to define my splitter. So here we are using this recursive character text splitter, right? So I'll call that function. So recursive character text splitter. Then I'll simply provide some parameter of that, how many chunk I want to split it. So chunk size, let me guess at 500, and chunk overlap would be around across 100. Okay, then I need to define my chunks. So the chunks, I'll call my splitter over here. So splitter dot, here I'll split the documents. So split documents, I'll simply pass my uploaded documents. Okay, done. So after uploading, I need to get the text and the metadata and the ID for each and every chunk, because whenever the LLM will give a particular response, and it is kind of retrieving those response from particular chunk. So I might want to show those particular chunk as well to the user, right? So I need some information that from where my LLM is retrieving those context. So for that, let's say text here for chunk, in chunks I need to get the value. So chunk dot page content. Okay, so this is how I'll be retrieving the text of any particular chunk. Now to get the metadata, what I'll do, again a for loop, and here again for chunk in chunks, what I'll do, I'll simply use this chunk dot metadata. Simple. Okay, now we also need to get the index of it, like the IDs of it. So IDs and to get the IDs again for I in the range of my total chunk, like I'll be dividing all those chunk with the name of the ID, right? So I'll be retrieving those chunk as per the ID. So for I in the number of chunks, how I'll be retrieving that? So I'll be using an F string, then simple path of my file path dot stem. All right, and after stem hyphen with the number of iteration. Okay, that's how I'll be getting my ID, and after that I'll simply print those embeddings that, like, I'll be showing a simple statement that we are embedding those documents. So simple for an report embedding chunks. Okay, then embedding embed model, and as we are embedding now, we need to provide those embedded documents. So embed model dot embed documents, we need to provide those texts. All right, texts. Okay, so now our embedded vectors are stored in this particular embedding variable. Okay, now the only thing that is necessary, okay, so let me just give the comment first. It will be number third step, which is embedding. Okay, after embedding, what we need to do, we need to simple upsert them to our Pinecone vector database. So upload upsert, rather upsert. How we'll do that? So first let us print something. So upserting embeddings. Okay, now how we'll do that? Simple with tqdm, because we want to show the progress bar. So tqdm, let's say total length would be length of the embedding. So embedding, right? And then I need to provide the description for the particular tqdm progress, which will be simple upserting to Pinecone as progress. All right, now how will upsert? So index dot simple upsert, I simply need to provide some parameter as the vectors. Now here I'll be zipping it. I'll be zipping my IDs, my embeddings, my metadata. All right, then simply to showcase the progress, so progress dot update, and to showcase the proper update we need to provide the length of the embedding. So embedding. Okay, now finally we'll simply print that upload complete for this particular file path. Okay, done. So this is how we'll be handling our uploading vector store module. Now we need to make two more modules. The number one would be to handle our PDFs, right? So for that I'll create a file as pdf handlers.py. Okay, all right, so here I'll import OS, then import schedule, and from FastAPI I'll import upload file, and also I'll import temp file, because I'll be storing all of those uploaded files by the user into this into our local store, right? Shuttle spelling will be single L. It's an inbuilt Python library. Okay, Now what is my upload dir, upload directory. Here we go, uploaded docs, right? So I'll be saving all my uploaded file in this particular folder. Okay, so let's say dev save uploaded files, and what will pass the list of uploaded files, right? So files be a list of uploaded file, not uploaded file, upload file that we have imported from our FastAPI, and we'll be having and we'll be returning in the form of list of string. Okay, now first we need to make sure that that particular directories exist, that particular uploaded docs directory. So make dirs upload dir with simple exist, okay, should be true. Okay, now initialize an empty path, so file path. All right, now with a for loop of for file in files, what I'll do, in my temporary path I'll store them. So os dot path dot join, I'll simply pass where I want to store in my upload directory with file dot file name. It will be file dot file name. Okay, after that I have to open those particular files, right? So with open, I have stored them in my tmp path, so I have to pass that, and I have to make it eligible for write. So wb as if, now I'll use shuttle dot, I need to copy those file object, and I'll be passing file dot file and if. Okay, then simple file path. Here I need to append those particular temporary files. All right, and then simple return the list of files, like the list of strings, list string, not the string, wait. So I am appending those temporary file paths into this file path, so I have to return that file path. Okay, so after handling our PDF, we need to handling the user query. So query handlers.py. Okay, now for that I simply need to import one thing. This from logger, I need to import logger. Okay, now again a simple function as query chain, where I'll pass the chain and the user's given input, so user input, which will be in the form of string, right? Now I'll use a try catch block, not try catch, try except block. So except exception as e, and here I'll use my logger, so logger dot exception, where I'll write error in query chain. Okay, then I need to raise this exception. Okay, now what we'll write in this particular try block again, let me start the logger first. So logger debug, in the case of the time of the debugging, let's say running chain for input. Which input? The user given input, so user input. Okay, then I need to store the response into this result. So result in this chain, here I'll pass the query, as my user input. Okay, so chain, there should be a second bracket. So this, I need to close this right over here. Okay, so query, now it should be user input. Okay, and after that I need to store them in my responses. So response here, response would be the result of my particular result, and I need to provide, okay, this is, I have to cut it. So after the response I need to also provide the sources, right? So sources, and how will I get the source? I'll simply run a for loop over here. So for, let's say, doc in the particular result with source documents. So results source documents. From there I need to retrieve the metadata. So doc dot metadata dot get, I need to get the source, so source, otherwise something blank. Okay, and after that, simple, again logger dot debug chain response. Okay, then simply I need to return simply need to return the response. Okay, so that's how I'll be handling my query chain. Okay, now we need to define our routes, right? So one of the routes would be, so first let me just create the folder. So our routes. Okay, so the first folder would be, so like the first route would be to upload our PDF. So simple upload pdfs.py. all right, here we need to import these things. So from FastAPI we need to import API router. That's how we'll be routes through our APIs. Then our upload file. Then from typing we need to import our list. From modules.load vector store we need to import our load vector store. That, and this module we have created in here, right? Modules load vector store, right? And also from FastAPI.responses we need to import our JSON response for our JSONify our string. Then to get our log we need to import our logger. Okay, now the first thing we need to initialize our API sorry, API router. So API router, I'll initialize that. Then @router, because upload PDF will be with the type of post, right? So post, and the API endpoint will be /upload PDFs. Okay, then slash again. All right, then it will be an async function, like async await function. So async def, the function name would be upload PDFs, right? And what you need to pass, we need to pass multiple files in a form of a list. So files in the form of list. So list where we have our upload file. Okay, and we'll be storing them into a file of multiple object. All right, now we need to define that. So a try, then we should have a try except in everywhere. So except exception as E. Okay, now here we'll use our logger dot exception, simple error message as error during PDF upload. All right, then we need to return JSON response, cause it's an error, so we need to show the status code for the error, which will be 500. So status code would be 500, and for the content we need to provide that which kind of content, it is an error, and here we'll simply need to provide string with exception E. Okay, now we need to fill this try block. So again we need to provide our logger dot, it will be an information, so info received uploaded files. Alright, now here I'll simply call my load vector store function and I'll simply pass those files. Load vector store, and I'll pass those files. Okay, now again a logger dot info to show you what's happening in each and every step, right? So document added to vector store. Now all the process of adding vector store would be done by this load vector store module. Okay, so logger.information is done. Now I simply need to return but a simple message that file processed and vector store has been updated. Okay, so for a message, let's say files processed and vector store updated. All right, so this is how we'll be handling our upload PDFs route. Okay, now we need to create our ask question route. Okay, now for this ask question route, right, and in this route, so this route will help to get those users query to fetch that to our backend to get those LLM response. Okay, so the name would be, let's say, ask question.py. Okay, so we need to import this dependencies, so API router and form from our FastAPI, JSON response, get LLM chain and query chain that we have built those modules, the document, base retriever, Google Generative AI embedding, Pinecone, field, list, optional logger from those dependencies. All right, now we need to initialize our router API router. We have initialized the router here. Then we need to define our function. So router, it will be a post endpoint. So post slash ask slash, then simple and async function of async def ask question, right, where we'll pass our question in the form of string, which we will keep in our form object. Okay, all right, so now our try block, then we have our exception as E. Okay, now let's first define our exception. So a simple logger, simple logger dot exception. Here we will write error processing question, right? Then I'll simply return the status code. So JSON response, here I'll provide my status code of 500 and also the content would be error with the string of that particular error. Okay, that particular exceptions. So now in this try block, first we need to provide that what we are going to do. So logger.info will simply write that user query. Okay, so let me use it as an f string. Okay, so that I can use users particular like query as well. So f string user query, here I'll simply get the query. So not query, like here, so here we are keeping this, so here we are keeping them as question. Okay, so question, then first we need to embed our model and then we need to do our Pinecone setup together. Okay, so first PC would be call my Pinecone, simply passing our API key with the help of os.environ, where I need it would be Pinecone. So Pinecone API key. Okay, now we need to get the index. So index would be pc dot the index with wish dot environ, and here I need to pass the particular particular which index I want to connect it, right? So Pinecone index name. Okay, now I need to define my I need to get my embed model. So embed model, which is this Google Generative AI embeddings, and I'll pass my model over here as model slash embedding -001. All right, and then my particular embedded query, here I'll pass my embed model dot embed query and simply passing the question. Right, so embed model dot embed query, we are passing our question. Now there I need to store the given response in this. So res index dot the query, here I'll pass my vector, so my embedded query, and the top retrieve chunk I'll be keeping as, let's say, 3 top relevant chunk. Okay, then I also need to include the metadata to see that which from which source I am retrieving those information. So include metadata, and I'll use that true. Okay, all right, now after this we need to retrieve our docs, like our text information from those documents. So in docs, here I'll retrieve, so document, under document I'll pass my page content. So page content, and this page content I need to match with my page content, so match with metadata, and with the help of this metadata I'll get the text. So the text, and if I don't, I'll pass a blank string, like an empty string. Okay, I need to give a comma. Okay, so page content match. All right, so now to get the metadata with match, we'll use metadata. Okay, and then here we'll run a loop through our match in our matches. Okay, all right, so this is done. So after that we need to create a class with simple retriever. Okay, and this simple retriever class will help us to get those relevant chunk extremely fast with extremely precise. Okay, now after defining this class, so here we are defining our tags and our metadata, and we are defining one self constructor, and here this is the function of get relevant documents. Okay, now here we'll again call our retriever, which will be, here I'll call my simple retriever, and I'll pass the docs over here. Okay, it will be docs. All right, so okay, it's saying some error, it's not defined. So simple retriever, class simple retriever, well, so the indentation, there is a problem in the indentation. All right, okay, now I need to define the chain. So chain, here I'll call my get LLM chain. So get LLM chain, where I'll pass this retriever. All right, then I need to store the result over here. Okay, the spelling is wrong, retriever. Now I need to store the result, so for that I'll call my query chain, where I'll simply pass my chain and the given question from the user. Okay, Then whatever is happened, I'll use it as a log. So logger.info, provide that query is successful. Okay. Now after this log, I'll simply return my result. Okay. I'll save it. Now we need to add them in our main.py, which will be the entry point for our FastAPI. So I'll come into my main.py, and here under this routers first, like where the route is upload PDF documents, I'll add app dot include router. Okay, now to add them, I first need to import them, right? So I'll come over here. So from routes dot upload PDF, I'll import my router as upload router. And why I'm doing this, because see, in this particular routes, let's say for this upload PDF, we have defined this @router, right? So this particular function, we can import it as a router. Okay, so from this module, if I am importing router from this particular module, this will be this particular function as well. So I'm importing from routes.upload PDF. So from this particular module, I'm importing that particular router. The spelling is wrong, the router, and I am naming it as upload router. Okay, same another one would be from routes.ask question. I need to import, let's say, router, and I'm naming them as ask router. Okay, now I simply need to pass those routers over here. So here it will be upload router, and here again app dot, if I include router, here I need to pass ask router. Ask router. Ask router. Okay. All right. So that's it. Now we can easily test our application. So now we need to run our backend application, right? So to run this, we use this command uvcorn main. Our FastAPI app's name is app. So uvcorn main app and hyphen reload. And why reload? Because if you make any kind of changes in your any file, it should reload the whole FastAPI backend automatically. Like you don't have to close the application, then again rerun it using this command. Okay, so I'll enter it and let's see if there is any error that we need to take care first. So these are this simple logger that we have tested. Okay. Alright, so here is some error that we're seeing. It's saying key Pinecone exception, Pinecone API exception, bad request. Okay. HTTP response header, content type, text plan. Alright, so error. The error is invalid argument message. Name must consist of lowercase alphanumeric character or hyphen. And the error I am getting in my Pinecone API response, right? So let's go to my load vector store. Sure. See here, so here is a problem. We cannot use underscore in our medical index. Okay, so we either can use a hyphen or a blank space. Okay, but I already have a index name with hyphen, so I won't use that. I'll just simply use medical index like this. Okay, and that's it. I'll save it. And is there any other error that I have to take care of? All right, let's try this first. Okay, you could see it's reloading again by itself. Now let's wait a bit for seeing any other error. Alright, so let us try it, right? Alright, so we'll come over here in our postman and we'll create a blank collection again. So a blank collection where I'll name this as Medical Assistant. Okay, now I need to have a add a request. Now the first thing we'll test is our upload PDF document. So that will be a post method. So I'll change it to post. Okay, the URL would be 8000. So I'll take that. I need to change it to post, and it won't be test. So I'll come to my main.py. Where is that? Main.py. Not here. So routes upload PDFs. Okay. Now here you could see upload PDFs. Okay. So in my postman, I'll use upload PDFs. Okay, like this one. Then I'll send it. Let's see what's the error we are saying. It's saying could not respond. Let's see the terminal. Here it's saying that type error codes middleware dot init got an unexpected keyword argument allow header. Acha, so here is the thing, it won't be allow header, it would be allow headers. Okay. Alright, so now we'll change this again. Alright, so first we tested that. Now I think it should work. Now here is the thing, see, I don't need this epidemiology. Okay, now how we'll test our upload PDF API endpoint through our postman. So first come to this body section. Okay, then click on this form data. Okay, now you'll be having this key and this value. Okay, so in key give files, as we are taking files from users, right? Now in the place of this text, change it to file. Okay, now here click on this. Now you could see an option new file from local machine, right? So I have already uploaded my diabetes PDF, but let us try it also. So in my alright, so I have uploaded my diabetes PDF. Now it's saying an error that the file above is not in your working directory and will be unavailable to your team. Like simply mean that I haven't uploaded that to my postman environment. So for that, just simply click on this upload files to the team. So it's saying I already have one, right? So I already have this diabetes PDF. So I'll just select this and I cut this one. Okay, so I have my files and the files is diabetes PDF. You can also enter multiple files if you want. Okay, now I'll click on this send. Let's see if there is any error in this terminal. Alright, so here you could see embedding 20 chunks, uploading to Pinecone, and the TQDM dependencies that we have installed, and this is for this particular progress bar. Okay, and it's given us a success message of 200. So you see files processed and vector store updated. Okay, now if I come to my Pinecone index and I'll refresh this page, and you could see I have this particular index. All right, so our next step would be to test this, right? And to test this, our API endpoint is /ask. I'll change the name so that it's easy for us to understand. So upload PDFs. Okay, and I'll save this. All right, now I'll simply duplicate this one. I'll come over here. Now I'll change this API endpoint to ask, and I'll come to body. Now here user will pass questions. So question, and this won't be file, this will be a simple text, right? Now the thing is, what do we have in that particular diabetes PDF? So here is the PDF that I've taken from, of course, internet. Yeah. So we have something about what is diabetes and some images, and we haven't used this multimodal, so don't expect it to be extract these images. Okay, like it only will, so it will only work with this text, and you can easily make it advanced with multimodal where it will extract some images or tables as a tabular format. And I've shown how to extract tabular format in one of my video where I've shown how to validate XML roles. But yeah, okay, so we have something about what is diabetes, some like types of this risk factor for diabetes, all those things. Okay, so we'll first the question, so the question we'll ask is what is diabetes, right? The simple one. Let's see. So I'll ask what is diabetes. All right, I'll send it. It's saying Pinecone index name. It's saying an error. Pinecone index name. Okay, for sure. So what is the error? Ask question dot py line 23. So ask question dot py line 23 os.environment, but I don't think I have added this in my .env. Exactly. So in my .env I'll add Pinecone index name. Okay, it will be in caps. So Pinecone index name, and our name is medical index. Okay, I'll save this one, and it won't reload because I'm updating it in my .env, so I have to reload it again. Okay, so if we go on main app, now I'll come to this postman and I'll ask the question. It is saying could not send request. Sure, let us send it again. Okay, alright, so here you go. So here is our logs for the debug. So whatever we are seeing, we can see whatever happening in the application, we can see in our console. Now one thing I haven't done that I should have, taken all these logs in a particular log file so that we can trace it, and I'll ask all of you to change that, and I'll ask all of you to add that in your application. Okay, and I'll take care of that from the next one, because we cannot save this log right now. Okay, so yeah, in my postman you could see, hello there, diabetes is a medical condition where the body is unable to properly regulate the body sugar level. So now let's see as per our document. So diabetes PDF, it is a metabolic disorder in which there are high levels of sugar in the blood. All those kind of things are there. Okay, now let us ask some more question. Let's say types of diabetes. We have type 1, type 2, and gestational. Okay, so I'll come over here. I'll write another question. It's text. Here I'll ask how many types of diabetes are there, and I'll block this one. Send. Okay, so there are several types of diabetes. I would happy to break it down for you. According to medical tourism, there are 4 types: 1, types 2, gestational. What are the type 4? Like what is the 4th one? Gestational, and okay, this LADA, so latent autoimmune diabetes. So like, okay, so you'll be getting your so you'll be getting your answer over here. Okay, so yeah, that's being said. Now we should create the front end with a Streamlit. Then we'll deploy our backend into render, and front end into Streamlit Cloud. Okay. Now for the front end, the first thing we need to install our Streamlit and requests. Right now, if I come to my this requirement.txt, you'd see that we haven't installed those libraries, right? So we need to install them first. So I'll get a new terminal. I'll activate the virtual environment. So, and I want to keep running my backend, so that's why I'm not doing that over here. So scripts activate. Now I wanna get under cd client. Okay, and uv pip install Streamlit and requests. Okay, there we go. And in my client, I need to create a requirement.txt because I will be deploying my clients in a client like my front end into Streamlit Cloud. So there I need to tell the cloud that you need to install Streamlit and requests, right? So that's why. So requirements.txt, I'll simply add Streamlit and requests over here. All right, and I'll be explaining you more in like why I'm creating two requirements.txt. Okay, it's done. Okay, let me just clear these things. All right, I don't need server anymore. Now in the client, now the first thing I need in client is I need to kind of take my API URL. Okay, so I'll create a simple file as config.py where I'll simply keep my API URL, which is of course http 227.0.0.1 of 8000 port. Okay, so this is my API URL as of now, and it won't be HTTPS, it will be HTTP. And when we'll deploy this, we'll change this to our backend URL. Okay, now the thing is, okay, so what we need over here, we need yes, of course, a simple app.py for our UI. So app.py. Okay, so I'll simply import Streamlit as ht. Okay, then ht dot set page config, and I'll name the page title as AI Medical Assistant. All right, and I'll keep the layout as wide, and then ht dot title. So title, I'll use this Medical Assistant Chatbot, and for a icon I'll use Windows semicolon, and you'll get this one. Okay, all right, so I'll run this. So to run it, again a simple command, Streamlit run app.py. Let's see. Okay, so you could see our medical assistant and everything. Okay, now I'll minimize this, and now we need to create our modules that we'll use. So the first module that I'll build over here is our utils. Okay, so first will be our utils, where I'll take my API endpoint. So API.py. All right. Okay. So I first need my request to handle those API requests. So import requests. Then from config, I need to import my API URL. Okay. Okay. Now I have a one function as upload PDFs API. Okay. I'll have another function as ask question function. Okay. Pass. Right. Now let us create that. So what we need to pass in our upload PDFs API, we'll pass our files, right? Then we need to define our files payload. So files payload. Okay, in our files payload, I'll first run a for loop of for f in files. So for each and every files, we first need to kind of understand key what's kind of like is it a PDF or not, right? So for every file, what we'll do here, take up files, and for every file we'll take the name, and we'll take the name, so f.name, and also read those files. So read, I'll use this read function. Okay, this will be read, so read. All right, and then I need to make sure that it is application slash PDF, because we are accepting only PDFs, right? So application PDF. Okay, now what we need to return, we need to return our request dot with our post method, where we'll use an if string to pass our API URL slash upload PDFs, which is our API endpoint. So API URL slash upload PDFs, and that's it. And this will be finished over here. So upload PDF. So upload PDFs, then files. I'll simply pass my file payload over here. So sure, there is wrong. So API URL, that's it. So this is where I'll be taking my API URL. Then I need to use the slash upload PDFs, then it's finished. Then I need to pass my payload, so files payload. Okay, all right. Now for asking the question, here I need to pass the question. So question. Now I'll simply return with my request. Again, it will be a post method. Again, f string, second bracket, my API URL, with my endpoint would be ask slash, not in caps, ask slash comma. I need to pass the data, and here I'll need to pass my question, which is the user's given question is question. All right, so this is how I'll take my API endpoint to my front end. Okay, so after utils, I need another module as components. Okay, where I'll create my chat components, my sidebar components, where we'll upload our docs, everything. So the first component will be our chat UI. Okay, so chat UI dot py, right? So we'll import our streamlit as ht, and as in our chat UI we need to add our backend's API of ask question, right? So from utils dot API I need to import that ask question. So ask question. Okay, then I'll create a function as, let's say, render the chat UI, like render the chat UI. All right, so let us give a subheader of, again, window colon. We'll use chat, so we'll use this one. Okay, hyphen chat with your assistant, right? Okay, now as we need to initialize our session state, because we want to showcase our user our previous messages as well. So messages, if messages not in the session state, then we need to initialize a session state dot messages. I'll initialize the empty list over here. Okay, now after that I need to render my existing chat history. Okay, now how we'll do that? So again, I loop through my message. So for message in that particular session state messages, okay, so I'll show them. So ht dot this chat message, I'll pass my message as the role, then simply I'll use markdown to provide the content. Okay, all right, so after render existing our chat history, we need to add input and our response through our backend API. So first I need to take my user input. So user input, I'll use ht dot chat input, right? Like simple, type your question, right? So type your question. I'll be taking that in my user input. Then if user has given an input, so if user input, then I'll show in my ht dot chat message, it will be role of user, right? So I need to first show the markdown of user input, what question user has asked, then ht dot session state messages dot append, right? So I need to append that particular user's message to my that particular session state. So message dot append, here I need to add the role, cause that will be user. So role, it will be under second bracket. So role would be user. So user, role would be user. Okay, and then I also need to provide the content, which would be user input, and I need to close the second bracket. Right, now I need to store the response. So in response I'll call the function ask question and I'll simply provide user input over here. That's it. Now in response I have got my LLM response. Now again, if response dot status code is 200, double is equals to 200, then data I need to JSONify the data. So data response.json, and my answer, I'll take data of that particular response. Okay, Then I also need to provide the sources. So sources data dot get sources, or and if I don't get a sources, I'll just keep it as blank. Okay. Then ht dot also the chart message, and as this is the response from our assistant, so we'll write assistant with a markdown of our answer, right? All right, now if you want to showcase like how many sources you got, which is not really necessary for this medical assistant chatbot, but I'll still be showing you ht dot, like if we have some sources, then ht dot markdown, like I want to show them, right? So let's say some docs, so let's do this one. Okay, so this is my sources, and for every source, what I'll do, I'll use ht dot markdown, and I'll use this f string to provide them. So s asterisk second bracket all those sources. Okay, this will be a flash. Then I need to clear the asterisk here too. That's it. Okay, and we don't really need to showcase the source over here, so I'll just comment it out, but this is how you can do that. Okay, and then ht.session_state, I need to append the users like our LLM response as well, because we need to render our users question and LLM response again in our next step. So session state dot, let's say, message dot append, right? And here I need to add the role, which is in this case assistant, right? And I also need to provide the content, and content is of course that answer given by our LLM. That's it. Okay, now if else, I need to close the else. If else mean if we don't receive the response, so ht dot error, I'll simply show with the f string, the error is around response dot text. Okay, alright, so here's a simple chat UI, and after that we need to create our module for history download. History download dot py. So for our history download, I first need to import streamlit as ht, and I'll just simply paste the function, which is a pretty simple one, where we are creating this function as a render history download. And the reason, like the condition would be if ht.session_state.get message, mean if in this particular session state we have a conversation, then and only this function will get triggered. So first in my chat text I'm storing the whole conversation, so /n.join, and here we are running a loop of for aim in this particular session state message. So whatever message we have, so we are iterating through them, and we are like whatever our role is, we are taking them in our uppercase, and we are keeping the content. Okay, so the structure would be user colon the content, like the question, then assistant colon the response. Okay, then a simple ht.download button, download chat history with a chat text with the file name of .txt. Okay, so that's how we can easily download our chat history. Now our last module that is required is our upload.py, which will be in our sidebar. Okay, it will be again a pretty simple one. Again I just simply need to import my streamlit as ht, and to upload I need that particular /upload pdf endpoint, right? So from utils dot api I need to import my upload pdfs api. Okay, so there is some spelling mistake, I think. So if I come into my api, there we have multiple p, it will be same. Okay, so upload .py upload pdfs api. All right, now the function would be render uploader. Okay, what we'll do first, again, as we'll be keeping that in our sidebar, so ht.sidebar, let's give a header first, that upload medical documents in the form of pdfs, right? Then our uploaded files ht dot sidebar dot upload multiple pdfs. Then would we be able to accept multiple files? Of course. So accept multiple files, I just need to make it true. All right, because we can send multiple file in a form of a list, right? So we have to enable this. Then if ht dot sidebar dot button, so here it will be upload db. So if someone clicks on this upload db after uploading those document, so if sidebar.button or upload db and we have some uploaded files, then in our response I'll call the upload pdfs api where I'll pass my uploaded files, right? And if I got a response, so if response dot status code, again like the previous one, 200, then I'll show in my sidebar dot success, that's uploaded successfully. It would be successfully. Okay, and else ht dot sidebar dot error, I need to give error, and it would be simple that particular response dot text. All right, and now in this app.py I simply need to fetch all of these modules together. So first, again, from my components, from components dot upload, I need to upload my render uploader. Then components dot history download, I need to import my render history download. Then again from components dot chat UI, I'll import what? The render chart, right? Then simply call them. So first render uploader, then render chat, finally render history download. That's it. Here we go. Right, I'll come to my web and I'll refresh this. Okay, so there is an error. It's saying cannot import name render history download from component.history download. Okay, let's see the issue. Components.history download, components dot history download. Oh, I need to save this. So I think now it's okay. Sure. All right. So as we have already uploaded our that particular diabetes PDFs into our Pinecone Vector database, so we can easily ask questions about that. Okay. So if we come into this, what we have in this diabetes PDF, and let's say if I ask some question, so how is diabetes diagnosed, right? So if I ask this question, sorry, if I ask this question, we still get to see the answer because our backend is also running, I guess. Sure. All right. All right, you could see we got our answer. Diabetes diagnosis typically involves a combination of physical examination, medical history, all those things. Okay, and we can also upload anything. Okay, so I'm just, because I don't have any medical document except this diabetes, so I'm just giving you this simple this document, okay, to show that it's working, and I'll upload into my DB. If you come over here, you could see it's inserting those into my Pinecone Vector database. All right. Okay. So that's being said, that's it for our application. And now we need to deploy our front end into our Streamlit cloud and backend into render. Okay. So now it's time for our deployment. So first we need to upload our like whole directory to our GitHub, right? So I don't have any gitignore files, so first I have to do that. So let's say I have to add a gitignore. And why gitignore? Because we have .env, so you don't want to kind of expose your API keys to your GitHub repo, right? So gitignore we use for that. So .gitignore, and also you don't want to upload your virtual environment. So .virtual environment. But before that, let me just do that. So first I need to get out of this server, then deactivate. Okay, then I'll write git init. Okay, now you could see .env. So this particular .env file is kind of a faded, so it's mean that whenever I'll be uploading my document, this .env virtual environment won't be getting there, like only going there, right? Now what more do I need to do that? So I don't need this .env file, so /server .env. I don't know if it's right or not. Oh yes, this you could see this .env got faded up. Then uploaded docs. Oh, it's okay. Uploaded docs. All right. Now PyCache. I don't need to give PyCache. Save is gone. I also don't need to provide my test.py. So test.py. Okay. Now in our client. All right. Now it's done. Okay. So git status. We have our gitignore, we have a Python version, readme md, client, the main.py, PyProject.uml, and server. Okay. Now I'll come to my GitHub. Just simply add a new name as Medical Assistant. So Medical Assistant. Okay. And you'll see all those commands right over here. So I simply need to add git add dot, mean I'll upload everything. then my first commit, then this, then I need to connect with this particular repo. So here we go. Then this one, git push. All right, so I'll refresh this page, and so here is my medical assistant application with client directory and my server directory, right? So now let's see how would you deploy our backend in our render. Okay, so render dashboard, I'll click on this new. We have a new web service. Now here I need to connect my public git repository. So Control C, Control V, connect. So this is my GitHub repo. This is the name, Python 3 main branch main. Now root directory, you could see our root directory is server, right? So this will be this server. Okay, we don't need poetry, of course. We're not using poetry. It will be simple our pip install requirement.txt, and here we need to provide our UVcorn main, this one, host 000. Why this host? Because see, we need to allow all kind of host because it will be in the global server, right? And 10,000 mean up to all ports up to 10,000. Then we need to free up. Then we'll be using our this free tier, and to add our environment variables, add from .env. I'll paste my .env. Okay, not this one. Here I'll copy this, I'll paste it over here. Okay, add variables, done. Everything should be done. Let me just check my requirement.txt one more. So this is my requirement.txt right over here. So it's all good. Okay, now web service, everything is done. Deploy my web service. Okay, let's see if you see any error, we'll take care of that. So see, using Python version 3.11, your service is live. It has says ki my backend is live now. So I'll copy this one and I'll come to my Postman, and here I'll use this duplicate. Okay, this one is for ask, this one is, let me just change this. Okay, now here I'll use /ask. Okay, now in body I have files. I don't need files, so I'll be deleting this one. So I'll delete this. Now here I have my question. So question will be in the form of text. Let's say what is diabetes, and it should work. It should work. I hope it will work. All right. Okay. So my backend API is running. Okay. Now what we'll do, I'll come to my VS Code and client in my config.py. I'll comment it out. I'll use API URL. I'll paste this line. I'll paste this particular URL. Okay. Now come over here. Right, simple commit and push. Yes, and it's done. Okay, now I'll do a refresh. I'll come to my client, and here I have in my config.py, you could see my API URL right now is this one. Okay, now I'll come to my Streamlit dashboard. I'll create in this create app, deploy a public app from GitHub. I need to connect the repo, so my repo is this one. So copy this, paste it over here. Okay, main branch is of course main. It will be client app.py, and just it's a too hectic name. So Medical Assistant, is it available or not? Domain is available. All right, everything is okay. Not, it is not available, right? So medical assistance. Okay, now we'll simply need to deploy. Okay, and Streamlit will automatically, it will install those Streamlit and request dependency by itself, so you don't need to worry about that. And see, this is the reason we has to kind of separately has to include the requirement.txt in our client folder as well. Okay, all right, it's done. Now let us ask the same question, key how to what are the question we asked? So if I come into my diabetes, what was the question? How is, like, how to treat diabetes? Okay, how to treat diabetes. All right, upload how to treat diabetes. All right, you get your answer properly deployed. You can easily upload any file if you want as well. Let's say I'll be uploading a small one, so this one, epidemiology, upload. You see, uploaded successfully. Okay, and if I ask a simple question about what is plant epidemiology, because I don't have any more documents related to medical. Okay, so that's why I'm trying this PDF. So this one. Okay, I got your answer. So that was for this video with this application of Medical Assistant Chatbot. All right.